A very warm welcome to our series, The Universe of SAP BTP in a Nutshell. We have a really long series lined up for you. We started actually on January 24th. And today we have our 16th episode on SAP Application Extension Methodology. And so today I have the honor of having my colleague Marco Mata with me. He will explain our application extension methodology and provide information on how you can define an enterprise extension strategy. But before I hand over to my colleague, I would like to, as usual, share with you that the next Garage series, episode 7, will be on how to extend SAP S/4HANA with SAP Process Automation coming July 5th. In addition, as usual, I would like to inform you on the various practitioner forums that we have lined up for you. I will share the link to the website after my introduction is over, and you can have a look at it in more detail. And with this already, I would like to hand over to my colleague, Marco Mata. Marco, over to you.
Thanks a lot. So I'm already sharing my screen. I hope you can see it.
Perfect.
All right,
yes,
then.
Thank you.
Thanks. Then also a warm welcome from my side. My name is Marco Mata. I'm part of the BTP product management organization, and I'm responsible for the SAP Application Extension Methodology. And for the next half an hour, I would like to give you an overview about this methodology and also give you a starting point where you can find more information. From an agenda point of view, we'll start off with a quick overview. Then we take a look at the first phase, which is called Assess Extension Use Case. Then we take a look at the second phase, Assess Extension Technology. And we close with the third phase, Define Extension Target Solution. When we are in this extension space, we have very common customer challenges. And here in this word cloud, I just mentioned a couple of them. So very prominent nowadays is the whole clean core topic. So how can I achieve a clean core? What to do with my extensions? How can I make them cloud ready? What part of my extensions do I want to build side by side? What do I want to build with the in-app capabilities of the S/4HANA system? How can I transition my custom code, my legacy code? How can I avoid modifications? And also a very important topic is how to write new guidelines for this new extensibility options, what I have on the BTP. How can I make sure that all my extensions are upgrade stable and do not hinder an ERP upgrade? So all these challenges basically can be tackled with the methodology. And the goal of the methodology is really that we provide a structure and a technology-agnostic approach for you as customers and partners, so you can really define your specific extension strategy. And in the end, we want to enable enterprise architects to understand and assess the extension use case and come up and define the extension target solution. When we take a look at the left-hand side of the slide, we have this nice little infographic where we see the 3 phases of the methodology in the outer circle. So the first phase is called Assess Extension Use Case. In the second phase, we take a look at the extension technologies. And in the third phase, we define our extension target solution. In the middle of the circle, we see that you can use this methodology to define your extension strategy and governance processes. And this methodology is open to SAP and also third-party technologies. We introduce certain terminologies so everyone speaks the same language, like extension domain, extension styles, extension tasks, extension building blocks. And we will now go through all these phases and this terminology one by one. I have also with me today a short hands-on example where we can see how one could use this methodology in a real-life use case. Each phase consists of several steps. So the first phase, we take a look at the system context, the business context, and also the application use case. In the second phase, we take a look at the extension styles, tasks, and the technology mapping. And in the third phase, we make the mapping between the extension technology and the extension task, take a look at various decision guidance assets like reference architectures, and in the end, define our extension target solution. Let's start with the first phase. In the first phase, assess extension use case, it's all about laying the foundation and really understand the use case we try to solve. The first step we recommend here is also to involve not only the technical colleagues like the enterprise architects and the domain architects, but also the business users. And the first step here is really to understand the system context, making a baseline architecture assessment of all the relevant systems and components for your extension project. In the second step, understand really the business context and requirements. And the context is very important. For example, if you have a business use case for warehouse workers and they are used to use mobile applications, then this is a very important business context to keep in mind and really write down in the first phase. And the last step is then to write down and define the extension application use case. And with that, we define our to-be scenario solution, which solves then in the end our business requirement. For each of those phases, we have defined certain templates and step-by-step instructions, which can help you to achieve it. One of those templates I would like to highlight. This is for the phase 1 and the third step. It's called the extension application use case description template. On the left-hand side, we see certain categories like actions, application logic, system, and required data. On the right-hand side, we see our scene description. So usually if you have a big use case, you divide it up into several scenes, so it's easy to consume and understand. And in the middle, we have some leading questions, which can help you to fill out the scene descriptions on the right-hand side. So this is a typical template then if you have this use case structured into 4 scenes, and we will see it also filled out in a second when we take a look at the example. So this is our example use case. It's called external business partner validation. And I will now guide you through the business case and the business context and also the tasks. So bear with me here. I know it's a lot of text on this slide. So I will summarize. Basically, we have 2 players here. We have on the one hand side the ACME Corporation, and they need help for the validation of the new business partners. And for this help, they request a service from the second player, which is called the iCredible company. And every time a new business partner is added now in the S4HANA system of the ACME Corporation, the iCredible company wants to get a notification, is then reviewing the business partner details, is doing some background verification and checking, updates then the verification details, and in the end, the business partner gets then activated in the ACME S4HANA system. So we have this back and forth between the customer and the service provider and the S4HANA system and the BTP. Some architectural principles and business context for that example is the extensions need to be upgrade stable. It should be easy to maintain, and we want to use as much standard software and services as possible. The side-by-side options are preferred due to a cloud-first strategy. And only internal ACME Corporation employees should have access to the S4HANA system. So the iCredible company employees shall not have access to the S4HANA system, but we give them access via the BTP. And the employees are used to work with the SAP Launchpad. Our role and task is now, we work for the ACME Corporation. We are part of the enterprise architecture team, and we want to create a target solution diagram for the implementation of that extension use case. And of course, we want to use the SAP Application Extension Methodology for this project. Using the knowledge of the first phase and also the template, we now divide this use case into 4 scenes. So in the first scene, the ACME creates the business partners in the S4HANA system. In the second scene, the iCredible company reviews the business partner details. In the third scene, the iCredible employee updates the business partner details in the extension app on the BTP. In the fourth scene, the iCredible company employee updates then the business partner details in the S/4HANA system of the ACME Corporation. On the actions layer, we see all the interactions with the user interface. So every time an employee is viewing something or creating something, updating data. On the application logic layer, we see things like receiving event notifications, entering new data, saving data. On the system layer, we see this handshake and this back and forth between the S/4HANA and the BTP. And on the required data layer, we see the business partner events, data, and business partner data handshake back and forth. With that, we have completed the first phase of the methodology and have now a very good understanding about the business use case we try to solve. Now we move on to the second phase of the methodology, which is called the Assess Extension Technology. And here it's really about understanding what are my options, what is the technologies which are available to solve this use case. And to speak the same language and have a common understanding, we introduce here certain terminology. And the first one is the extension styles. The extension styles help to frame the overall technology for our and structures our extension tasks. The extension styles follow the well-known 3-tier architecture model with presentation tier, application tier, and data tier. For extension tasks, we have described for each of those styles and tiers certain technology-agnostic extension tasks. And in the end, each extension task solves a specific part of your extension use case. And the third step is then the extension technology mapping, where everything comes together. We have the relationship between the extension tasks and the building blocks. And the building blocks is in the end the technology which solves your problem. And the building blocks can then also be categorized into different domains. We have here, we see it also in a second. Starting off with the extension styles, as mentioned, we follow along the 3-tier architecture model with presentation tier. We have the user interface extension style. So every time we adapt the standard user interface, we are in this category. We have the new user interface. So really, if we need to create a custom user interface from scratch, we are in the second extension style. And the third one in the presentation tier is then the forms and template extension style when we need to adapt or create new forms and email templates. In the application tier, we have the business logic extension style. So every time we need to touch the standard SAP business logic, we are extending it, and then we are here. And the last one is then in the data tier, the data model extension. So every time we need to create or define a new data model, we are in that category. And as mentioned, for each of those tiers and styles, we have now defined technology-agnostic extension tasks. I would like to highlight here for the presentation tier 2 extension tasks. So the first one would be to the P02, where we add a custom field to a standard user interface, and also the P03, where we create a new custom user interface from scratch. For the application tier, we have also defined many extension tasks. So things like adding business logic to validate fields, creating rules and workflows, consuming or creating APIs, creating a lot of new application logic, creating and scheduling background jobs. So all these tasks are then in the application tier. And for data tier, 2 very common extension tasks are, for example, to create a persistence, or also adding a custom field to an existing business object. Also for this phase, we have certain templates which you can use, like the extension task mapping template, where we see on the left-hand side our scene description from phase 1, and in the middle we see our extension task from phase 2, and we need to map it. And this, through this mapping, we start the translation from the business requirement into technical requirements. In our example, when we pick now the scene 02, where the credible employee reviews the business partner details, we see on the action layer, the credible employee starts the application from the SAP Launchpad and then is reviewing the business partner details. For that, we can map our extension task, create custom user interface, as we want to create a new user interface from scratch and an application logic. We see things like that we receive the event modification, and we also want to read the business partner data. So for extension tasks, we map the consume event and also consume a standard API from S/4HANA. Moving on to the technical extension building blocks. Here we have defined the extension domains, and the extension domains describe basically the location where the building block is running. So it can either run as part of your core solution, so it's part of your S/4HANA system, or it can run on the BTP. Then we talk about the side-by-side extension domain. And very often, if you have a complex use case, we talk about the hybrid extension domain, where you need to use the combination of S/4HANA extension capabilities and BTP extension capabilities. And all this information now comes together in what we call the extension technology mapping. This is a big list where we start on the left-hand side with the presentation tier. We then have our extension styles and the extension tasks in the middle. Then on the right-hand side, we see our extension domain and the technical extension building blocks. And this is more or less then your toolbox, how you can really solve the extension use case, where you make this translation from business requirement via the extension tasks into technical requirements. And this step happens now in the third phase of the methodology, where we want to define the extension target solution. The first step here is now for each of the extension tasks we just mapped to the business requirement, we want to make an informed decision which building block fits the best in this use case. And for that, we need to analyze and decide for each extension task what building block is the best. In the second step, we have certain decision guidance assets. So we have a lot of extensibility guidance documents, discovery center missions, use case patterns, and also reference architectures. And all these assets can help you to make this informed decision on which building blocks you want to choose. And the third step is then to develop your extension target solution. And for me, this is always something like a diagram, and this is then the preparation step for your implementation. An interesting template I want to share here for the third phase and the first step is the extension task guidance template. So this comes especially handy if you want to define guidelines. So we see on the left-hand side the extension style data model extension. We have our extension task at custom field to existing business object. And in the middle, we see certain technical extension building blocks as options. So for example, the SAP Key User Extensibility Custom Fields app, but also the SAP Classic Append Structure. And now the idea is that you can fill out with also the help of our decision guidance assets and also very specific for your project, which of those technologies you want to allow in your project and for this use case. So for example, if you also want to follow a clean core strategy, you would allow the key user extensibility and focus on that. And you would most likely recommend to not use anymore the SAP Classic table modification as an option. And with that, you can really provide guidelines also to your architects and to your developers, and maybe also to your implementation partners, what technologies you want to use, what technologies do you allow for your clean core strategy, and what technologies you want to avoid in future. Another template here is the extension technology per extension task mapping template. So we see on the left-hand side, we have from phase one, we have our scene description, so our business use case. In the phase 2, we see the mapping to our extension tasks. And now in phase 3 of the methodology, we want to make our informed decision on which technical extension building blocks we want to choose. In our example, we will now go into the extension technology mapping. We take a look at the extension task create custom UI, and we see all the options which are available. So of course, if I'm in the S/4HANA on-premise context, I could still do a classic DIMPRO. But due to also our business context and architectural principles, we want to avoid that. We want to focus on the new technologies. So here we choose our SAP Fiori Elements UI technology deployed on the BTP, and we use SAP Build Work Zone for the Launchpad capabilities. If we now have this knowledge and we put it into this template, again, we see the second scene of our use case where the iCredible employee reviews the business partner details. We did the mapping to the extension task where we want to create a new custom UI, and we just took a look into the mapping where we see, okay, we hop on to the build work zone and to the Fiori elements deployed on BTP. On the application logic layer, we said we want to consume an event and consume an API. And for that, we use the SAP Event Mesh service on the BTP, and we consume a standard OData API from the S/4HANA system. And for example, all these standard APIs can be found on the Business Accelerator Hub. We have a lot of decision guidance assets, which can help you to make this informed decision. I would like to highlight here the newly ABAP-based extension guide. This was also updated recently. And also on the Business Accelerator Hub, you will find a lot of this new developer extensibility options with the local APIs. So it makes sense to take a look into those assets. And of course, on the Discovery Center, we have a lot of missions which can help you to find use case examples. And with that, we are in the third phase of the methodology where we also want to create our target solution. Here we have certain solution diagrams and icons currently in the form of a PowerPoint template, which you can use to create these architectural diagrams. In our example, the solution architecture diagram could look something like that. So on the left-hand side, we have our BTP Cloud Foundry environment, where we see in the middle our business partner validation, Fiori Elements user interface. We have the Launchpad service, we have the HANA Cloud service, we use the SAP Event Mesh service, and we have a secure connection to our S/4HANA on-premise system, where we then read and write the business partner details. To get access to all these templates and this information, you can reach out to our community with this email. So it's sapaem@sap.com. And here you can just request access. And you can also take a look at the help portal where you can find the documentation of the methodology and start with using it. And with that, I'm already through this quick overview. And if there are any questions, we can take them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Marco. So far, we do not have any questions in the chat. So I would like to ask our attendees, if you have any questions, please post them now. So in the meantime, Marco, big thank you to you for this excellent overview. And you're already sharing your email address. So in case any questions come up also after the presentation, feel free to contact Marco. So in the meantime, okay, there are questions. Perfect. Thank you so much. Oh, okay. So where can I find the slide deck to access these links? I will share the link shortly. Okay, the other question was that as well. give me a second. I will look for the link.
So if you want to have access to all the templates, and today in this overview session, I just showed a very small portion of the templates, you can reach out and get access to our community here. Just drop an email to this address here, and you will get invited to our community, and then you have full access to all the templates, to the extension technology mapping, where you can see all the building blocks and all the options which are available for building extensions on BTP and S/4HANA.
Awesome. So with regards to all the past and upcoming webinars, and of course the documentation, I just posted the link to the website, and then under upcoming, you scroll down to January 2023 events. And then if you click on the drop-down menu, you will see all links to the past videos and to the PDFs as well. Oh, any other questions you have? So I hope you all managed to take a picture of the QR code or directly the link. And so I would say if there are no further questions, then I would like to thank you so much for joining. And I hope to see you again next week. Next week, we will have an update from Sapphire on all the roadmap basically for this year. And in 2 weeks, we have a presentation from PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I hope to see you in one of our upcoming webinars. And with this, I would like to wish you a great day, a great evening, depending on where you are. Goodbye.